Okay, so here we are at Spoonbender's Cafe, Spoonbending Webinar. This is actually the third episode. And welcome to you who are watching and you who will be watching later, which means you'll be watching now, or now that you're in. And so I want to tell you just a little bit about how I came to be spoonbending in the first place. Just to give you a little tiny bit of background, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts on spiritual and metaphysical things, and came across this woman who had a spoon-bending program, like a kit that she sent out, and it was just really intriguing. I've always been interested in like paranormal things and ESP and whatnot ever since I was a kid, and so I was intrigued, and I bought her program and actually managed to bend a spoon the first time that I tried. And for me, it was like proof of what I was capable of, where I had been watching all these different people's programs or listening to all these different people, and it seemed like so many of them had some like huge proof that showed up in their lives. And so it was like irrefutable that, the universe, that you're a creator in the universe, or that there's something greater than us, or, some 8-foot blue guy showed up at the foot of somebody's bed and then took them for a ride through the universe. And for months and months, I was like, where's my blue guy? Because I wanted that kind of proof, and still haven't met the blue guy, but I did learn how to bend a spoon. And the shift that happens for me in myself and in my, the view of my reality when I bend a spoon is the smaller version of my 8-foot blue guy. And so I started trying to share that and teach other people, and it wasn't working. Something was just not clicking until about a year ago, where I started teaching again, and people were really starting to get it. And I think partly it was my own confidence of just showing up and stepping forward with it. And I think also that the times that we're in, they are changing, really. So many teachers talk about the veil being thinner or having access to new capacity. So for me, it became an exercise in, well, both. It was a reminder of what's possible, of what I had, the state of mind, the like space that I had found in which I could do something like this. And it was also an exercise to keep growing in that direction. There's one thing that I think you will find when you start to apply to try to bend a spoon is right away all your limiting beliefs start coming up. All the stuff that you normally say to yourself, that I say to myself on a daily basis about what we're capable or what we're not capable of, what's hard, what's too hard, immediately shows up to have a discussion with you about you and your spoon. And so one of the reasons I really like teaching this and doing it over and over again is to keep uncovering sort of the next layer of where am I telling myself what I'm not capable of, where am I telling myself what I can't do, and then to set that aside. And I find that I don't even need to really refute it. I don't need to debate it or argue with it. All I really need to do is set it aside and to just try to present myself with kind of an empty space to work in of curiosity and possibility. Okay, so that's just a little intro there. Hi, Danya. I see your lovely ceiling. Thanks for joining us. So I happen to know that the two of you who are on the call with me at the moment have bent spoons. So that's pretty cool. And I'm thinking that we might take the spoon bending, to whatever your next level is. And for me, actually, sometimes the next level isn't necessarily that I bend it more than I did before, which I actually did just a little while ago, but it's that I bend my mind a little more than before, or I find that next level that to go deeper, to say, oh, here's where I'm still stopping myself. And then regardless of whether the spoon bends to some new degree or not, there's still shift going on for me. And then as I keep practicing that and keep building that awareness, then I'm taking that tool, that muscle, that understanding, and applying it to my life, so that when I'm facing some challenge and I think, oh God, it's too hard, I can't do it, or whatever. Actually, I was having a discussion with a guy the other day, and I started almost whining about what was in my way to get to my next place, in my business. And he was like, well, why don't you just, do it like you bend a spoon? And I was like, okay, already the words are being fed, like being given back to me. Like, that's what I told you. And now that's what he's telling me and reminding me that, yes, when I take the, oh, this is hard point of view, it is going to be hard. And when I take the, I wonder how it could be different, it just immediately softens and opens to some new possibility. So, I don't know. So, any questions about you bent spoon? So I guess you've already figured out some reason that you want to bend a spoon. Is there anything that you want to share about the spoon bending experience, or why you bent a spoon once? Why are you here? Why did you come back?
And I came back because I have the spoon that I bent. And when you said that we could attend even if we'd bent a spoon before, what I automatically thought is, yes, I learned how to do this. It was so amazing, absolutely amazing the first time that I did it, because I obviously had some limiting beliefs. I tried a few times with you watching your video and couldn't do it. And then there was this one time, and I think it was when you were saying almost absentmindedly to be rubbing that one spot and then try it. And I was so amazed, and I keep it right by my desk to inspire me and remind me that I can do this. So I thought, why not take it to another level, as you were just saying, and have it become a daily tool? That's what I'm learning from you. It becomes a tool just as a reminder, but now it's a tool that I might be able to do the little spiral thing that you did there.
Right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. And for me, the spiral came, I had bent, I'm surrounded by spoons here. I'm going to find a model spoon. So yeah, for a long time, like the spoon that you bent, this is, where I got. And that was great because, as you know, without that sort of mind shift, the spoon is too hard to just bend with our strength. And so just like this, it's already a great, almost token of, or not token, a reminder, a touchstone of what it is that you were capable of doing, what it is that I managed to do. And for me, I guess I assumed that was as far as it could go, or as far as I could go. And eventually I came upon this woman's video where she was teaching some kind of energy work, and she didn't really go into description of what it was, but she was saying that, whatever it is, she sort of applies a sense of energy, and then she just takes a spoon, and then she just went like that, as if she was opening a sardine can. And I was like, holy cow. And I think just seeing her do that allowed me to take my next leap, right? That I said, okay, most people, you ask them if they can bend a spoon, they're going to say no. So your wall is here. Then you bend a spoon and your wall is here. And then so I was at this wall, and then I watched this woman do this thing over here, and I was like, oh, whoa. And it enabled me to really even take that leap. So,
yes.
So that's another reason that I want to keep teaching and showing people, is because I believe just having people watch it, even if they don't manage to do it themselves, or they're doing whatever degree they get to and watching somebody else do something, just that alone expands our awareness and our sense of what we're capable of. With a caveat, as long as we see those things and don't go into judgment about ourselves. Because if I saw that woman do that and be like, oh wow, that's so amazing, and look, all I could do is this, I wouldn't have been able to do what she just did, right? I would have been just caught up in my own self-critical judgment and just limitation even more. It's like, oh no, so it's other people can do this and I can only do this. And so one of the really expansive ways to see what other people are doing is to see it as, wow, that's something that we are capable of.
Yeah.
Something that is possible for us. And I may not know how to do that now. I may not know how to access that now, but I see you do it. I see it's possible. And I wonder how it's possible for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how it's possible for me is not necessarily the same way that it's possible for you. I think that's stuff matters. Mark Stein. What does this mean? Stuff matters. Okay, thank you, Dinah. Stuff matters. The book Stuff Matters. Thank you. I can read. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know that book. I will definitely check that out. And it reminds me of a quote by this guy, Bashar, who's actually some channeled entity, who says, circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters. Meaning that it's our state of being that actually creates or changes matter, not the circumstances that we necessarily find ourselves in.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. I finally figured out how to plug in my headset.
Good. All right. Thank you. And I'm glad I finally deciphered your very clear message.
The book, it's I just ran into it the other day, and it's about how things are made, and he gives this incredibly vivid description of how metals are made of little itty bitty crystals, and that they can move.
Right.
And I'm like, that's what you were talking about.
Right, because that's what we're all made of. And we are no more solid or less solid than this is. It just kind of seems that way. Right? And
yeah, I mean, some of them, the crystals are closer together, so that makes the material seem harder, but they're all capable of moving. So
right. And then the whole quantum physics idea that, was like the nucleus of an atom is so infinitesimally tinier than the electron shell, or I get lost in that stuff, but just the idea that there's way more space in stuff than there is any actual measurable stuff in stuff. And even where some scientists are saying now that there is really never anything that's solid, it's just constantly waving in and out and blinking in and out, and it happens on such a rate that it seems solid to us. For me, I kind of think of the idea of like if you're looking at a fan that's going really fast or a propeller, when it's slow, you can see that it's like 3 or 4 or 5 blades. And as it goes faster, it looks like one solid thing. And boy, if you were trying to put your hand through it, it would feel pretty solid. And so I sometimes think like maybe we're like that. We're just like buzzing around or spinning or blinking in and out so fast that it looks like we're solid. And the spoon looks like it's solid. And if we take a different perspective and approach to it, like what this guy's saying in the book, and get in between those crystals, that we can create something different. We can make something else happen. I mean, I'm starting to play with the idea that somehow I could relate to this spoon as if it was almost like aluminum foil. And one of these days I'm going to grab the bowl of the spoon and I'm just going to crinkle it. And not because I'm so strong, but because I got into such a rapport. My molecules, spoon molecules were like all, together and agreeing, let's do something different. Let's just be like soft and squishy. And why not? Yeah. It reminds me too of Barb and I were talking recently about pain and trying to deal with pain, and the idea of finding the places between the pain, finding the places where pain is not, because we think of pain, it feels like it's a solid thing. And it is no more solid than the rest of us, although it sure feels that way.
Actually, anybody who's ever undergone labor
Yeah.
understands about labor coming in
Yeah.
waves. And I think that's really just a kind of a larger than life example of how ordinary pain works. It
Yeah.
comes in
Uh-huh.
many waves with
Right.
spaces in between.
Yeah. At least with that, there's usually a pretty good payoff at the end.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think that's a good point. You know, and also I have never been in labor, so I don't speak from experience, you know, but it seems to me that in that pain, there's a different perspective and a mindset that you're having while you're undergoing that pain than maybe some other pains, because you're yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
I said hopefully because that's when you go to birthing classes and you train specifically how to focus on something other than the pain or beyond the pain. And yet some women, some of the time, it's entirely something that they never thought was going to happen in that way. So again, it's the mindset in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
if there's a coach, that's why there's a coach there with you to remind you about the mindset that you're both speaking of. I think that works. That's like how that's like bending spoons.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get wrapped up in the pain, you lose the focus pretty quickly.
Yeah. Right.
Just like wrapped up in our daily fears, and then we lose the focus that we did this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I was pondering this a little bit more last night too, and I realized that just the same way I said, you know, I got to this other state of being able to twist it because I watched this woman and it opened that door for me. And then I had sort of set myself this other goal of wanting to squeeze the bowl. You know? And at some point I will, but I realized that because I set it as my goal and I was already getting so caught up in the outcome and the wanting to get to another level, it made it hard. It made me hard. It made the spoon hard. And I realized that I was not going to get there that way. And so I was able to kind of back up and say, well, all right, what is that place? Where do I go? What is that mind space that allows me to do the bend that I can do? And then to take that to the next piece, and with intention and desire, but without attachment to the outcome.
Exactly.
Hey, can I read you a little sentence here?
Yeah.
Okay, this is from the book I mentioned, and it says, as you bend a paper clip, you are causing approximately 100 trillion dislocations to move at a speed of hundreds of meters per second. Although each one only moves a tiny piece of the crystal, one atomic plane, in fact, there are enough of them to allow the crystals to behave like a super strong plastic rather than a brittle rock. So, I mean, he goes on and on and on in all directions about this, but basically, metal is movable. It moves, and I mean, so he's talking about paper clips, but I think it would be just a small step to the spoon, and then to the I don't know, the samurai sword or whatever.
Right. And I think how we work in the physical world is we think, well, yeah, but a spoon would require more force, right? Force is what does it. And if we're saying instead that intention and sort of a rearrangement of our thoughts and feelings are mental molecules, maybe, you know, that we could change the bond or change the amount of force that's needed, right? Because we're still using force. I mean, so far, the people that I've shown this to who've done it and what I've done, there's always been some mechanical effort going on to bend the spoon, but it's usually, if not always, less effort than, you know, it would need if you just said, okay, you know, give me a spoon, I'm going to bend it, just using force.
Well, when I bent my spoon, you know, at your last webinar, it was a spoon I already knew I couldn't bend. I'd already tried it. So, you know, it wasn't like how much force. It was like I'd already done all the force I had available. So then when it worked, obviously something else was happening.
Right. And so what else is it that we can do that never occurred to us to do or that we were certain couldn't be done? You know, and to me, that's also the value of doing this with people and sharing it to say, hey, here's one thing. It may not be terribly useful. You might not put it on your resume. You might. I don't know. It may, I mean, in and of itself as a spoon bending, maybe not such, it's interesting at parties. But beyond that, as a way to say even like, hey, there's stuff that we can do that we never considered. And we don't have to be the Olympic athlete training in order to do it, right? Because we know that people can, with the Olympics on, right? It's definitely up in the air that, you can train and work your butt off and become like almost superhuman in the thing that you have your passion about. And that's very cool. And it's also really cool to just say, I wonder if this could be different, and then create something different in our everyday lives. So, all right, maybe it's time to just sit with our spoons and make something happen with our everyday spoons, especially for the people who are going to be watching this later who have perhaps not yet bent a spoon. So one thing that I wanted to say too about this is that everybody's going to kind of have their own technique or their own visuals or their own sort of way in to that neutral space in themselves or to how they're going to relate to the spoon. Some people are going to, maybe, bow to it and thank it and ask it to collaborate. Some people are just going to go into, some white light. Some people are going to, the first time I did mine, I imagined that I was holding a torch and just getting it red hot so that in my metalsmith mind, I knew that if it was red hot, it would bend easily. So that was, it was almost like a trick I was playing on myself, right? A little mental trick. So we can go through some different ways, but also know that there is no one right way to do it. And it's also okay if it doesn't bend. And you can still have the experience of trying to find that place of allowing and intending and unattachment that that helps all sorts of things move, spoons or otherwise. Okay, so how I usually approach my spoon bending is just when I decide, okay, I'm going to bend the spoon, I just take a moment to just really bring myself present and to just kind of whatever thoughts or worries or external stuff is going on, it sort of like pull my little tendrils in to the present moment. And I'm just aware of myself and the spoon, and my hands holding the spoon. And and then being aware also that I am in this moment intending to bend the spoon. I'm choosing to apply my attention and my awareness to create a different shape with this spoon and to be able to bend it in a way that I normally would not just be able to do. And I like to really try to imagine in my mind's eye or even in what it might feel like in my hands if the spoon, when I'm actually bending the spoon, I'm trying to imagine what will that feel like and trying to have a visceral experience of it. And what I was thinking of is like if I asked you to remember tying your shoes or to think about, I want you to go tie your shoe and have that in your mind, how much would come up for you? You would probably have some kind of visual. You might feel the shoelaces between your fingers. You might have some a replay or something of how your hands move as you're looping the laces around. And it's very comfortable and it's very present and easy. And so I'm trying to find that same sort of sense with this spoon, even when I haven't done the task yet. But if it was as comfortable to me to bend a spoon as it was to tie my shoes, how would that feel in my hands? You know, how calm, how neutral would I be? Like, I don't really get tense, not for like the last 50 something years about trying to tie my shoes. You know, is it going to work? Is it not? Is it going to stay? Is it not? I just, you know, I tie my shoe. And so in that same way, I'm holding the spoon. I'm feeling it in my hands. Sometimes I'll rub it at the spot where I am imagining and intending the bend to happen. And I'm just holding awareness on the sensations and the focus, unaware. Like for me, I'm getting a little bit of a tingling in my head, which sometimes means that I'm reaching a certain level of focus or clarity. I'm still not rushing it. I'm just feeling it. Every now and then I'll give the spoon kind of a test bend to see. And I'm feeling there's a little bit of give, but it's still pretty stiff spoon. And I'm imagining energy coming down through my arms into the spoon, holding the awareness that we are all energy. The spoon is made of energy. We are made of energy. And so we can interact together in different ways, energetic ways. We can shift the electron boundaries or properties. And at some point, it's like some window of opportunity opens, and it may feel different for everybody. But for me, it's almost as if I could actually squish the spoon in that moment, and then I can bend it over. And it's usually a pretty short window that happens in, you know, and that initially for me, it's like the window's open, the window's closed, right? And so with some practice and for me getting around, I bent the spoon, you know, as soon as you do that, the window's shut, right? Or even, you know, if you're about to bend the spoon and you start to feel it maybe go soft, you feel something shifting, go, window shut, you know? So you really have to find this just almost calm observer place. And then if I can maintain that observer place, then I can often continue to bend it. See, now I can't. I already went too far afield, you know. But I think for me in this moment, if I hadn't kept talking and if I had done this bend, I might have been able to continue to see something happening next and make something go further.
And that's it's a great demonstration. The audio here sounds.
Yeah, you're like cracking up, or it's missing.
Yeah, I won't speak.
Well, would you come a little closer, maybe?
I could do a chat.
That works.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I think it's because I have a fan on, and when I was back behind it, it was moving my voice around. Anyway, it was great when you took yourself away from the point of being able to do it and just started doing all those twists again.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were sort of demonstrating not what not to do, but what happens when we lose our focus.
Mm-hmm.
When we lose our intention, our belief.
Right.
Now I would love if the spoon that you already bent, even though it was a few minutes ago, whether it was months ago like mine, that now you can get into that place again and get into that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
More.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so again, you know, next step in the next set of limitation, or the next internal dialogue starts. Like, well, okay, you know, I mean, I'm pretty good at this part. I don't know if I'm going to, you know, and I think usually it's been a struggle in my life that dialogue or that internal voice has been what runs the show. Mm-hmm. And so through really practice and, working and being mindful of what's going on in my mind and choosing what to listen to and what not to. I can say, okay, like, I hear you, and you just sit over there for a while. I'm not even going to discuss it with you. I'm just saying, like, this is not helpful. And I'm coming back over here with my spoon, with the energy, in the sense that it really is all malleable, and I don't know how, and I don't need to know how. I get into my centered, quiet place. I'm imagining it twisting around, and I'm waiting to feel in alignment with that. And I'm a little nervous, so it's not finding it yet. And then I let go. And I get a little further.
All right. Wow. Uh-huh.
Beautiful.
And that could even be useful. But I mean, someone had actually asked me, like, well, what happens then? Have you just wasted the spoon now? And so that's why initially I tell people to bend responsibly and not just, pull a spoon out of your mom's or, out of your good silverware set, right? To go to a Goodwill or somewhere and get a spoon that won't be missed at dinner. Because way more than it being a waste now, it's a tool. It's a teaching tool. It's a exercise equipment, as a reminder.
Yeah. I just wanted to see it better as a side view like that. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I have literally used these spoons that I bent as the tool when I'm feeling kind of nervous or overwhelmed about something in my life. And I recognize that I'm sort of going down that rabbit hole of negative, limiting thinking and believing it. I hold on to the spoon, and I remember and I see that I was able to do this and know that in order to do this, none of those voices and none of that stuff was helpful. It was all what stops me, and that there's a choice in there, and that every time I bend a spoon, I'm making that choice, and I'm like strengthening my chooser. I'm strengthening my chooser to say, no, I'm not going to go into limitation and deciding that it's hard and deciding what I'm not capable of. Instead, I'm going to go into some neutrality and curiosity and wonderment and see what else might happen. And when I do that also without much attachment to the outcome, that also quiets down a lot of those judgmental voices that want to talk about, at the end, what you did or didn't accomplish or how it went or how, it's like all of that is that's just all the peanut gallery now. And it just doesn't run the show, and instead, even if nothing changes in my attempt to bend the spoon outwardly, I'm tracking what's going on internally in my thoughts and in my mood and my energetics. And so there's always something useful happening for me when I'm doing this. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why spoons?
That's a good question. And for me, spoons started, I don't know, maybe it started because Uri Geller, we'll have to ask Uri Geller, why did he start bending spoons? It's maybe why Nicole Whitney started bending spoons and selling a spoon bending package, which I bought, and she said spoons, I use spoons. They're handy, they're pretty easy to find. They're something that is familiar to most people. It's a familiar object. So it doesn't carry a lot of emotional baggage or weight or charge. There's nothing, there's no sharp edges, right? I mean, I have spent some forks, but I waited a while because I think, what if my hand slips? What if I puncture myself? So, just to worry about that was enough to keep forks from bending.
I couldn't find a spoon today that I was willing to sacrifice, so I picked up a table knife.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the thing is, I now believe I can bend a spoon, but I haven't quite gotten there with table knives. This, by the way, it's one of those with the, like, you can't cut yourself on it. It's for like spreading.
Uh-huh. Right.
But anyway, I thought I would just try bending a knife today because
right.
Why not?
Yes, why not? And actually, a woman who had watched one of my webinars grabbed some spoons and she said, "Oh, I just bent it. And then she tried a knife and she couldn't do it. And I think maybe she said the knife actually broke in half. And so I immediately made up a story to accommodate that circumstance. And some of it may be true, some of it not. But for one thing, I imagine that knives, the temper of the metal is different. That, when they're manufactured, right, you want knives to not really bend or anything, whereas a spoon normally would have more give. So I think in that regard, it's easier. And that's the story, right? That's a story that I tell about why it's easier to bend a spoon than a knife.
Good as anything.
I also, at some point, want to try and hope I will figure out how to take a lead pencil, a wooden pencil with the lead through it, like the old-fashioned kind, and bend it, right? Because normally we could break it, right? You could take a pencil in your hand and just break it and it splinters. But same thing, it's all molecules, it's all relationship, it's all vibration. So it seems to me I ought to be able to figure out how to vibrate a pencil into something that, could curve. And rather than tell myself it's not possible, I will just tell myself I haven't even tried it yet, but let's say I haven't. I haven't done it so far. It doesn't mean I won't. Doesn't mean it can't be done.
Actually, wood does bend. It's, when it warps.
Right.
So why couldn't you just instantly warp some wood rather than waiting for it to happen over a long period of time?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, spoons will bend too. Sometimes, they just had one too many round in the dishwasher, got on something. I mean, I was out eating the other day. I was actually giving somebody a bent spoon as a housewarming present. And I was sitting with my mom. She had a spoon for her iced tea, and she lifted it up, and she's like, "Look, I bent it," which she has bent a spoon. However, this one came, kind of like that. So they do bend. I mean, it's possible. And so at some point you may, tell us that you bent a knife. Like, could be any minute now, or it could be next year, or,
Hasn't happened so far, but I'll let you know when it does.
Right. Okay. But yeah, so that's why spoon, just sort of, because that's how it came down to lineage or something, right? Until we start practicing with something else. Yeah. And so my goal with this is to keep trying to sort of stretch the limits, but mostly try to stretch the limits internally, right? To not even stretch the limits. I want to drop the limits, right? I don't want to step out of the box. I want to say, what if there is no box? And then what's possible? What am I capable of? What are you capable of? What can we do, together? And to show people how much what we think and what we say to ourselves and how we approach something affects the thing and affects the relationship that we have with the thing or the person or the planet. I think last time I talked about Masaru Emoto and the work that he did photographing water crystals, and how he he could show that if you just sort of beamed love, he would take water in a glass and write the word love on a piece of paper and tape it to the glass, and then photograph a molecule of frozen water, and it would be this incredible snowflake crystal. Then he would take another glass and write, like, I hate you on it, and it was not a beautiful, lovely looking crystal of water. And so we're made of 70-something% of water. So just on that level, you know, if we hold the awareness of what we can do, and what we can do, because that's how it works. That is what's possible. It's like we didn't just create some little anomaly, right? It's that we really can affect reality. We just don't walk around really knowing that. But if we're really mindful and aware of that, and aware that every thought we think can affect a water crystal, and we're mostly water, then just on that level, wouldn't it be a good idea to monitor and choose wisely what I'm saying to myself, you know? All right.
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 Yeah.
Oh, you didn't see my thumb up.
No, because all I see is your ceiling, my friend.
Yeah, I have a tape over my camera because I was eating breakfast.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't
So
want anybody to see me eating breakfast.
I can understand that, but see, all this time I thought that was your ceiling, and now it's just a piece of typing paper or something.
Yeah, it's actually it's white, like masking tape.
Okay.
It's a symbol of paranoia. There's all these rumors about how people can turn your camera on when you don't want them to. And stuff.
I think about that too sometimes.
And then they'd see my ceiling.
Right. Well, rest assured that when that masking tape is up, no one can see you raise your thumb.
Oh, all right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though. I will tear that off if I bend this knife.
Okay.
And then you will be able to see my bent knife.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So Barb, how was it for you working on, you know, trying to bend your spoon more than you had previously bent it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I liked the reminder of the focusing of it and the imagining, and I like the imagining the torch, imagining all those. But for me today, in the same way that after you bent yours, that you started talking more and you were out of the sync of it, well, then so was I. And it was harder for me to get back in because those meditative moments weren't as long for what I needed. And I could probably do that on my own. I like doing it with the coach because it's your voice and your reminder, and you're saying, okay, imagine now that it's really soft. So I would have wanted a little bit more of that. Because you can do it so quickly now, because you even got back in from the place of, I'm just way out there, I don't even believe, I got myself distracted. Next thing you knew, you were double bending it faster.
Yeah, right. And it's something I'm learning to shift in and out of. Yeah, but I get it.
That's a great demo. But then to come back to the teaching of it, to slow it down a little bit, I may or may not have been able to, but I just as I was feeling the possibility, we were in a different place.
Right.
Need to stay there. Well, except for it just bent a little bit when I was distracted and talked, like you say, that sometimes, not much more, not much more, but just below right here, it began to soften up. So you say that the talking distracts you from thinking you can't do it.
Right.
That's just what happened to me in that moment. So that's
right. And, you know, on one hand, yes, we each have sort of our dominant ways that we maybe do something. You know, some people get quieter and accomplish. Some people need to get busier, you know, whatever. Some people are more tuned into their vision or their hearing.
Yeah.
And yes, those variations are true. And here I was completely buying into your story that in order to bend the spoon more, what was needed was for me to, you know, take you through this and go slower and give you this time and give you this space. And yes, that, you know, that's sort of the comfortable way that you can envision it, right? And it's also a story. I mean, it's a story that you couldn't do it other ways because you just did it. You weren't even trying to.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if you know a way that is helpful and that makes it easier for you to do something, then use it. You know, I'm not saying like, you know, pick the most uncomfortable way, you know.
Interesting that I began to feel the shift again until I went, oh, I feel the shift, because you said that's something that can knock us out too.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, thank you.
Uh-huh.
It's all part of the lessons. It's all part
Right.
of
Yeah. Yeah, and that piece of it kind of just happening while we're sort of, you know, we're still in this webinar, so there's still the intention of being with our spoon or our knife and making it bend. So there is that awareness. It's not like we've dropped it completely.
Right.
And yet, you know, if we're chatting and discussing things and not really putting too much focus on it, then we're also not sort of calibrating or judging or doing that whole thing that we do even on really subtle levels. And I take that again into my life of when I want to get something done and I get so, you know, focus in so hard on it and I have to do this and, you know, and I have to, but it's hard and I'm not good at it, or I only have 2 hours left, or, you know, all of those things, right? All of those are the window shutters.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and all the, I'm just going to sit here and see, you know, what my bubble, you know, if I need to write something, right? I'm going to sit here and think about, you know, how I would like it to feel to be writing something that made sense and was clever and made my point, you know, and then allow some flow to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Danya, anything else you want to ask or share? Or
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, okay, good, because I don't have my headset on, and I wasn't sure if you could hear me without the microphone. Amazing, another miracle. Hooray.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
No, you were just talking about writing and how writing and spoon bending aren't that different.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I've been experiencing what I'm calling possibly a writer's block. It's really more like an editor's block, but I'm really thinking that you may be onto something that I'm missing in this whole process, because I keep looking at all the shit you have to do to get your book published and to, you know, get it properly formatted and to, you know, there's all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like my absolute mindset is I can't do all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, you know, probably that's not really the right approach. Ain't no spoon gonna bend with that mindset.
Right. Mm-hmm. And there's, you know, I mean, to throw it open to possibilities too of maybe you get somebody else to bend your spoon. You know? You don't always have to bend your own spoon. Sometimes the bending of the spoon is that the right person comes along, you know, who, you know, even when we say, you know, I mean, already in my solopreneur's mind is going, yeah, but what if you can't afford somebody to edit? What if you don't have, you know, yep, all of that too. And still, what else is possible?
And you know what? People are already coming forward and offering to do stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, but I really, you know, I really got to get over myself.
Bend your spoon, baby.
Everybody help me bend my spoon.
Yeah, I was mentioned before this guy who was sort of feeding back to me my own words of, you know, when I was saying that whatever it was, you know, just too hard and I couldn't get it. And he said, you know, about the spoon. And so we sort of invented, like, we've got like a hand signal now, you know, of like, just bend the spoon. Like, oh, editing your book too hard, can't get to it? Bend the spoon.
I love it. Hey, did I ever tell you about the time I found a bent spoon?
No.
I was going to a funeral, and I found a bent spoon on the ground. And approximately a year earlier, one of my very dear friends, who had been a big fan of Uri Geller, died.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in the state of mind. I'm going to a funeral. I'm going to honor someone who's died. And all of a sudden there's a bent spoon on the sidewalk in front of me. Like, I mean, there wasn't even any sensible place it could have come from.
Uh-huh.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, my friend, the Uri Geller fan, has just let me know she's here.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, so I've been carrying that spoon around with me ever since. It's sort of a little reminder that, people are in touch.
Mm-hmm. Right. And amazing things happen. And we usually want to discount it. I mean, even so many times when I bent a spoon, and so many of the people that I've taught to bend a spoon, they bend it and then they're immediately like, I didn't really do that. I mean, obviously you did it because it's bent. Right? I didn't do it. It must be really a junky spoon, or there must have been a soft spot that I didn't notice, or, we want to explain it away. And we do that with the amazing things that happen in our lives too. And so we don't realize how magical so many of the things that go on in our lives are, because just because it's either part of the noise, or we just think, oh, well, that was a weird coincidence. Well, really? Was that a weird coincidence that you found the spoon on the way to the funeral? Or was that some incredible magical manifestation?
I'm definitely going for the incredible magical.
Yeah, right.
But, that's one of the great things about bending spoons is, I mean, you can try to deny it, but if you're sitting there with a bent spoon in your house, you've got pretty solid evidence that something happened.
Right. That's why, for me, I don't know if you were on when I was talking about the blue guy, but I know I talked about it the last time, where even though I didn't get my 8-foot blue guy in the corner proving to me that there's like higher beings here for my benefit, I will bend a spoon that's tough enough that I know there's no way that I did it with my hands, and it's irrefutable. So I'm using it in place of the 8-foot blue guy.
Oh, I guess I didn't hear about the 8-foot blue guy. Someone you know?
I know. No, it was just generally the idea that, I'd be listening to all these podcasts and stories of people, how they sort of had some, spiritual awakening or some new awareness, or like there was literally somebody who told a story of like waking up one night and like at the foot of his bed, there was this like 8-foot tall blue being, and took the person like on, some out of body tour around the cosmos and explained the beginning of life. And, I don't know what else, but my stance was always like, something like that happened to you, you would know. Like, it wouldn't be like, well, I maybe believe in like blue people, it would be like, you believe in blue people because you had one show up in your bedroom and take you out on a date, and so many of these people would, in telling their stories, you'd be like, I didn't even want this. Like I was a bookkeeper. I just wanted to, live my life and whatever, but this blue guy came and showed me everything and said, now you should write a book, or, whatever. So all these people being sort of summoned, right? And here I was listening to all this stuff and like begging for my blue guy to show up, and no blue guy until there was a spoon. So my blue guy is just a little metal spoon. And I'm running.
I've met guys who are far less attractive than a bent spoon.
Yeah, well, and you go with what you got, with what works. So, yeah. And the other thing, which I've kind of alluded to in and out, about how you talk to yourself, how I talk to myself has been a difficult spot for me for most of my life. I have been very hard on myself and a lot of negative self-talk, and just really just downright mean. And you can't bend a spoon if you're coming from that place. And so I have certainly done a lot of, personal growth and spiritual growth work to get out of the thick of that. And yet it's still, when I sit down to bend a spoon and I hear what's going on in my head, it's a place to still see, the leftovers, the lingerings, the ways that I may kind of fall into those old patterns. And so it's it's a practice for me to be mindful of that and to shift that and to also counteract that in a way of like, how could I be so hard on myself and think that I'm like some failure when I'm really some divine being that came here to just see what it was like to have a human experience. And then in that human experience, I could do things like bend a spoon, or that I create my life, that you create your life. And so it really helps maintain that greater, higher perspective for me. And hopefully, that's what I'm sharing with other people to help them find.
Amen.
All right. So,
You know what I'm having trouble with this knife? Is I can't decide whether to bend the blade or the handle. The blade is much thinner, of course, but it's not very comfortable. Whereas if I'm holding it by the handle and trying to bend the handle in the middle, it's much thicker and much less likely to bend. But it's really much more comfortable to hold it that way.
Right. Yeah, and I suppose not being able to decide is also a window closer.
Yep.
I mean, maybe, ultimately, if we really can't do this, and yet we do, then is it really any harder to do the part that feels hard or do the part that feels less hard? Because, it's not our assessment of how hard it is that's actually doing it, right? Our assessment that maybe it's possible. So, and of course, I want to tell you which one I think is easier, but that's just my story too, And I have not personally seen or done this, but one of my teachers has been to spoon bending parties and years ago, knew Uri Geller, and has been where people holding a spoon, or two spoons, spoon and a fork, have basically shifted the energy so that they did not even have to use mechanical force, and that holding it and intending it, the spoon bent over,
That's what I should do. Then I wouldn't have to decide. If I just used my intention and let it bend itself, then I wouldn't have to decide where to bend it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I'll start working on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many levels and so much more, expansiveness. Like, okay, so now I'm pretty certain I can bend a spoon like this just about any time I want. And I keep trying to translate that out and out and out. And I keep coming up with, but what, and so it's to keep clearing those buts out. Say, what if, what would that be like? All right, I think, unless anybody, did you want to say something, Barb?
No, I'm just eating with the spoon.
Yeah, I fell asleep actually with the spoon in my hand last night. I was sort of meditating and thinking I was going to bend it, and I woke up and there was a spoon in my bed. Better than a fork, definitely better than a fork.
I was hoping you were going to say it bent itself during the night.
Right.
That would be cool. It remains to be seen. Yeah, I will. I'll keep you posted on that. Yeah. So.
Holy shit! I just bent this knife.
Yes. Take that plastic tape off.
Gotta show us.
Let's see how to get it in the camera range. There it is. It's not a lot, but it's not straight anymore. Can you see it?
Yeah. Just hold it still from the side for a moment. So
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, yeah.
There you go. Wow. Yay.
Oh, that's super.
Yeah, thank you for showing us.
Yeah. Now, really, what is editing?
I kind of forgot I was doing it. I was just sitting here pulling on it and pushing on it, and while you were talking, and then kaboom!
All right.
Just as we're about to close, I love that we hear "Yay!"
Yeah.
I bent a knife! Yay!
Right.
Okay.
If you're not paying attention, then there's no script running about it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for pulling that one off. That's
Ta-da.
yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
So,
I got to get more cutlery so I can bend more things.
but yeah. I start, going to the Goodwills and whatever, and I just stand there in the aisle, like picking up every spoon and testing it, and it's okay. That's the yes pile. That's a no pile. Yeah. So, where I want to be taking this from here, and maybe people who might be interested, is I want to offer group coaching to go from the spoon bending into really how do we bend our lives and how do we bend our mindset, and to use the spoon bending is one technique. There's a whole bunch of other things to do, but in that same sort of vein of the ways that we limit ourselves and the ways we could remove those limitations, to really work on where you're stopping yourself in your life and how can we help you bust through those obstacles or those imagined obstacles.
Yeah.
So that's up and coming soon. I was thinking maybe August. It might not happen until September, for a starting time, but I'm going to start telling people about that. And I imagine it'll be a 5-week online group coaching. It also will come with its very own Facebook community. Mm-hmm. Nice.
I'm excited about my knife.
Absolutely. And so that we can cheer each other on, and help keep, now what, not in a dissatisfied way, but in a, wow, what else?
What can I do next?
Yeah, what else is possible?
Yeah.
Sweet. So, if you think of anybody, send them to the webinar so they can see what it's all about. Tell them about the coaching coming up. They can contact me and ask me about that.
Yeah, I thought some of my friends were going to be here today, but I guess everybody got busy or something.
Yeah, it's hard to know, too, like what's the right time of day or day of the week. So I'll just, be doing these for a while to come, and like I'll try different times a day or whatever, and then the replays are available. So, well, it's fun to have you here.
And on the replays, your friends will see that you bent a knife.
Ta-da!
People will start showing up. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with me and doing this together.
Oh, this was fun. Well, who doesn't love seeing Nietzsche and hanging out?
Aw, you're sweet. Thanks. All right. Namaste, my friends. I'll see you next time, wherever that is.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.